If you have a shared network, then all the rollups will eventually be able to talk to each other. We're going to run everything on the world computer. If you run everything on the world computer, which is Ethereum, you're going to be able to make all the rollups talk to each other. They can transact between each other. They can send money between each other. That's the dream we're going to get to. If there is a cool application called Optimism Venmo, and there is another cool application that is, let's say, a shopping platform on, let's say, an Arbitrum, you can pay for your items at Arbitrum shopping platform using your Venmo that sits on Optimism. Then users don't have to ever even have to choose between, like, where am I going to go, which chain, which bridge. This is all going to disappear.
Welcome to the Edge Podcast. I'm DeFi Dad here with Nomadic from 4RC. Today's show spotlights the Ethereum-based rollup Puffer UniFi. In this episode, we talk with the founder of Puffer Labs about what is a based rollup, how it works, how does it solve for a better user experience, and how can it provide a turnaround in investor sentiment on Ethereum. But before we do, just a quick word from our sponsors who make the Edge Podcast possible. Hey folks, I wanted to tell you a bit about our sponsor, PYTH Oracles, your go-to source for smarter data to power smarter contracts. PYTH delivers real-time market data for crypto, equities, FX, and commodities to over 80 blockchains. With 120 plus major market participants like Jane Street, Binance, and CBOE, PYTH ensures secure, low-latency feeds trusted by 430 DeFi apps. You can learn more about PYTH by going to pyth.network. And thanks to the PYTH community for supporting us here at the Edge Podcast and Edge newsletter. Overwhelmed trying to manage your crypto and DeFi investments? Meet iYIELD, a free financial planning tool for crypto natives and yield farmers. iYIELD's dashboard compares returns from your DeFi positions side by side, providing clarity to help you make better decisions. iYIELD supports a growing list of over 16,000 tokens and 40 of the top DeFi and staking protocols across 17 blockchains, including Ethereum L2s. The best part is that iYIELD is 100% free, anonymous, and there are no ads. Check out iYIELD.com today to take control of your financial future. Hey folks, I want to tell you a bit about our sponsor, HOURGLASS, the protocol unlocking liquidity for time-bound tokens. With HOURGLASS Boost, you can time boost your assets and earn time-bound tokens that maximize your yield. Alternatively, HOURGLASS also enables leveraged airdrop farming, where you can get over 150x leverage and 10% more points than anywhere else in DeFi. Plus, thanks to their slippage-free market design, you can secure bigger airdrops at better prices. To learn more about HOURGLASS, go to hourglass.com. Launching your blockchain in months? That's so 2020. Launch your network in minutes. With TANSSI infrastructure, restaked security through SYMBIOTIC, plus full customization just a few clicks away. It's 2025. Build smarter, scale faster. Visit tanssi.network to get started. Meet Definitive, the most advanced on-chain trading platform across every chain. Built by Coinbase alumni, Definitive's institutional-grade features lets anyone trade like a pro, featuring advanced order types like limit, TWAP, and stop loss, gasless trading, one-time approvals, and soon cross-chain swaps for multi-chain EVM and Solana. Definitive routes your orders through every liquidity pool to get you the best price on every trade. The alpha is on-chain. Trade it instantly on Definitive. For Edge Podcast listeners, enjoy zero trading fees on your first $50,000 in volume at defidad.definitive.fi.
Bitcoin Layer 2s are everywhere, but Goat Network is different. We're the first to use decentralized sequencers, letting both Bitcoin and Dogecoin secure our network while earning native yield. No nonsense, just your assets working smarter. Our early supporters got it, with over 8 million committed in December alone and already earning returns. Next up, mainnet launch in Q1 of 2025. Goat Network, where Bitcoin scaling meets real yield. Visit goat.network, get involved, and start earning sustainable yield.
All right, let's introduce Amir Forouzani, the co-founder and CEO of Puffer Labs. Amir, welcome back to the Edge Podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me again. This is one of my favorite podcasts.
Yeah, the last time you were on, it was June 2024. So we were coming off of a really exciting time with LRTs. It was like spring, LRT spring. And we are going to focus our conversation today more on your efforts since then, which has been around this based rollup. There's a few other products we'll touch on, but the one that I am most eager to talk about is Puffer UniFi. So we're going to talk about what's a based rollup, how is it different from other L2s, does it fix for any of the problems or challenges around L2s on Ethereum today. But before we do that, why don't we start with a little bit more on your thoughts on Ethereum? You know, you've been building on Ethereum now for years. The Puffer liquid restaking product, you know, was building off of, I think, one of the biggest narratives within Ethereum with restaking and eigenlayer. So just remind us first, like, what do you believe are the strengths around Ethereum?
Of course. Maybe I'll just start with a quick backstory, like of why even people got on Ethereum. We got this first blockchain that was amazing, which is called Bitcoin. And the coin for it was BTC. Like, everybody loved it because it was on blockchain, it was decentralized. People got control over their own money. What was the pushback on this was this money was not programmable. You couldn't have had like interesting financial primitives that you have in real world today on this blockchain. That's why we got all pulled into Ethereum. We were like, okay, this is now a financial primitive. We can program our money. We can like do certain things, like we can do lending, we can do DeFi, not like CeFi, we can do DeFi, we can do interesting things with this new chain. And that pulled us all in. Like, that pulled a lot of like smart folks in the space in to develop on it, a lot of new users that were interested in having a permissionless and decentralized money and be able to do new and cool like financial like primitives on it. I think this is like a very important item to consider. What brought us to Ethereum? What brought us to Ethereum was this main point. This main point then gets to, we want something that we can trust. We want something that is stable. This is the main thing for me. And this is the main thing for developers. If, let's say, we deploy a chain, we want it to stay live. We never want it to shut down. If, let's say, the banking system shut down, there's, of course, bad things happening. I gave an example earlier on. If, let's say, you have a position that needs liquidations or a position that is going to be liquidated, if the chain shuts down, all the customers are screwed. That's why we're still to this day on Ethereum. There is nowhere else for us to go. If everybody comes out and tell us like, oh, it is done, like pack up your bag, go somewhere else, my certain answer would be like, where is to go? This is the best that we have in the space right now. It already has the best network effects. Look at the capital market on Ethereum and the capital market of ETH itself. It's unimaginable that we can get it anywhere else. And that's why we're still on Ethereum. And thriving protocols are trying to join Ethereum.
Amir, I think you like succinctly laid out the builder case for why be on Ethereum still, why continue. Obviously, super important reasons like chain uptime, security, all those things. But put on your maybe investor or retail hat, whatever you want to call it right now. Why should people, maybe that aren't builders, still be excited about Ethereum and ETH, the asset?
Absolutely. I think there are, like, if I want to categorize like folks, there's like one category of people who are absolute speculators. They love like sort of being part of a casino. They want to enter into a casino, trade, make a lot of money and leave. Maybe today, Ethereum is not the most efficient thing for that. It has high gas fees. It's maybe not built for that. But as a user that is looking to replace, let's say, banking with this, as a user who's looking to take out a loan, buy something on the assets they have, Ethereum is the only location you can go. If you're looking for somewhere that gives you the same feeling that you have with money today, you will use Ethereum. I don't know any other address as a user that I would go to use Ethereum. And then it goes back to the why of why we started crypto. A chain that I feel like my assets are safe on, a chain that I have the feeling that, again, I'm not going to get liquidity out of the blue as the user, and a chain that everybody else is comfortable with. It's been already it's been through so many things before that we know that after these 8 years or how many ever years that we've been working on Ethereum, it's trustworthy to use while carrying the main concepts and the values that entered every other user to blockchain itself. I want to have ownership over my own money. And I also want to admit that, okay, ETH today is not perfect, but it has the best roadmap. Everybody else hasn't, every other chain, if you look, hasn't really delivered anything meaningful. Sure, ETH has downsides. It hasn't scaled. It's not fast enough. It's not at a point that it's cheap enough to use, but we will get there. That's the work in progress. I believe even Ethereum Foundation and the folks are all now moving very seriously towards scaling Ethereum and solving its challenges in a more pragmatic way. I want to bring these 2 points, to be realistic. I don't want to be this guy who's in the ivory tower still says Ethereum is the gold, is the best of the best. I do want to admit it has shortcomings, but I do also want to maybe say what happened to ETH that a lot of people are, quote, upset about it. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Amir, given all that you shared on Ethereum, let's talk about how does Puffer fit into the Ethereum ecosystem? What are the products that Puffer is working on?
Of course, back in June, we came on a podcast with Justin Drake, and Justin Drake mentioned Puffer is building, so Ethereum gets more guaranteed runway of development itself, so users can use Puffer to take advantage of it till Ethereum actually improves and gets to an acceptable form of itself. We continued on doing so. We believe now we started this new path of further improving on Ethereum itself. We started UniFi. UniFi is both a rollup and it is an ABS. They're 2 separate products, but they're under the same name. UniFi rollup and UniFi pre-confirmation ABS. I can unpack what they're going for, but I want to give everybody a TLDR. Instead of I want to always we do this podcast different. We want to explain to everyone what we mean by this. I don't want to go far by explaining the technicality of things. I'll give you an example of what we're trying to get to the end goal here. Today, we are so happy we're using Venmo. We are so happy we're using things like Venmos, Stripes, other payment platforms. No one has ever came out to tell us my Venmo is running on Amazon Web Services. Venmo is just amazing. No one came out to tell us that I'm running certain thing on certain infrastructure. We're working towards a future that everything is going to just run on Ethereum only. There is no other chains. There is no other L2s. To a user, there is not even a feeling that which chain I'm going to. There is going to be amazing applications only. Hey, I'm using this amazing blending protocol, and the user doesn't even have to know where it is being run on because there is a trustless protocol underneath that is Ethereum that is running it. It's cheap and it's fast. That's what we're working towards. So instead of having to confuse user that my protocol runs on AWS, it runs on Google Cloud, it runs on this, we will just showcase to the user that there is an amazing application that runs on an amazing infrastructure, which is cheap and it's fast. This thing is called Ethereum. That's what UniFi is aiming to achieve.
Amir, I love that vision. The first thing that popped in my head was and kind of anticipating a listener hearing this is okay, that sounds amazing. You're talking about a Venmo-like experience, but how long? When is that future going to be realized? Are we talking a year, 2 years, or is this kind of the Justin Drake timeline of 5 years, but plus maybe an extra 2 years on top of that? Where are we at?
There has been kind of a revolutionized way of thinking on the Ethereum side. Given that we can admit the competition has been heating up as well. People are getting more realistic in putting out timelines now. If let's say now we're after sequencing call 17, I can tell you almost all the rollups are aligned that we need to become based and also native. It's almost a no-brainer at this point. finally people are converging that, okay, this idea is great and we would like to move fast on it because we're tired of sort of like having to create these confusing narratives, these confusing infrastructures, like where am I going? This is better, that is better than this. We should focus on creating a thriving Ethereum ecosystem. Timeline-wise, I can tell you, like at least on the UniFi pre-confirmations, which is a big prerequisite for having a fast infrastructure. We're launching it within February, latest in March. It's going to come out. That's the first piece of this puzzle. Speed. Pre-confirmations, UniFi ABS already is going to bring that up. Ethereum Foundation has efforts like universal registry contract, things like that they've been leading, that they're going to standardize everything. We're no longer going to get things that are not standard anymore, and it's going to be fragmented on the teams. Some teams going to be, no, mine infra is better, no, mine is better. They're going to at least have a point of convergence now. Everybody realizes that they need to build something that is useful, and everybody needs to be fast. Based rollups, also there's another effort that started by like open source community. It's called Fabric. Instead of 5 teams studying 5 different things and not having a guidance of standardization, it's going to be standard now. People are now going to build different things, but at least they're going to have an agreement. They're going to be interoperable. We're not going to create an internet that only Chrome runs in. We're going to create an internet that Chrome, Firefox, whatever that thing that Microsoft had back in the day, can also run it as well, right? Which is called DOGE. This is the goal. And that's what makes us much faster this year. You're going to see base rollups much faster. I'm anticipating before the end of the year, you're going to see it. You're going to see this UX because things are moving much faster.
Amir, kind of with like the recent pushback from, I guess, call it ETH community with the Ethereum Foundation, we saw like a unified, like all L2 call, I think with Justin Drake. And I don't know how many L2s or ecosystem people were on that call. Maybe you were as well with Puffer, but they were speaking to this convergence on, look, we need to like get unified, essentially. We need to kind of work together a bit more. And I've been wondering what based rollups do to the incumbents that are already here. Like, okay, are we just going to get even more fragmented with, now we're going to have base rollups, we're going to have optimistic rollups, you know, whatever Arbitrum and Optimism have been doing. Now, do they need to course correct into this based rollup future? Can they do that? Or are we going to have these new islands emerge that are just base rollup islands? Can you kind of dissect what's going to happen here with that?
That's a great question. There has been probably a slight misconception about based rollups. The reason they're called based rollups is because they're sequenced from the base layer. Essentially, the Ethereum validators are going to take a responsibility of running these rollups. It's not going to be an introduction of really a new type of rollup. It's going to be a new way of running rollups. All the existing rollups that are optimistic, ZK, anything, they can really become based with very few moves. They don't have to reinvent anything. The thing that baseness brings is the ability, the groundwork to be able to talk between the rollups. Why? Because now they're sharing the same computer layer, which we call the world computer or Ethereum, to talk to each other. If you have a shared network, then all the rollups will eventually be able to talk to each other. I'm making this very simple. I know a lot of research people out there that it's not going to be that easy, but this is the simplest way to put it. We're going to run everything on the world computer. If you run everything on the world computer, which is Ethereum, you're going to be able to make all the rollups talk to each other. They can transact between each other. They can send money between each other. That's the dream we're going to get to. If there is a cool application called Optimism Venmo, and there is another cool application that is, let's say, a shopping platform on, let's say, an Arbitrum, you can pay for your items at Arbitrum shopping platform using your Venmo that sits on Optimism. Then users don't have to ever even have to choose between, like, where am I going to go, which chain, which bridge. this is all going to disappear. And the way to coordinate is the world computer, which is Ethereum. That's why it's called based rollups.
I want this vision of based rollups to play out, but does this mean that like Puffer UniFi has to be very intentional working with, let's say, someone like, Optimism and Arbitrum and ZK Sync and Mantle, or like, is there like a time where the floodgates like open and basically like, let's pretend UniFi launches and it's supporting a bunch of apps on Ethereum mainnet and Arbitrum. Like, is there a stopgap there for other protocols, other chains to like jump on board with this? Or like, do they have to wait for you all to, get integrated with them? Like that's the part of this architecture I don't understand.
Yeah. So initially, of course, like because they haven't become based, we can't really like work with them on the front of composability. Or I'm not going to use fancy words again. Apologies for that. We can't communicate with OP chain. Like, yeah, I think there's been a lot of like fancy words thrown around and that might confuse the audience. Initially, like we wouldn't be able to do this unless if they become based. Of course, we're in communication, we're in touch with all of these. And basically that's what we're working towards. If eventually everybody becomes based, it's going to become much easier to work towards that. And I do foresee that like the seriousness in everyone. If the first base rollup comes out, it's fast and it works as good as current rollups or even better, which I anticipate even better. You haven't seen the things that people ran in like dev environments, like 6 giga gas, like 30K TPS. And this is something that I wanted to also talk about is like a lot of people say, oh, Ethereum can never be fast. Base rollups, like OP rollups, whatever, they can never be fast. People are running EVM at 6 giga gas. EVM can be fast, like super fast itself. Like there is no doubt that it can be super fast. We don't need any other fancy outside thing. We don't need to reinvent the wheel again to get fast. What we have can be fast. And once everyone is going to see that in production, it's going to even move faster than that. Like people are going to be like, okay, this makes sense. Why would we like fight against this? And we already got it on sequencing call number 17. I think that was a great wake-up call for everybody else, and they got it lined up.
This episode is brought to you by MANTLE, the ultimate Ethereum L2 for builders. With over $2.16 billion in TVL, MANTLE powers multi-billion-dollar yield-bearing assets like CMETH and FBTC, driving sustainable growth and capital efficiency. Plus, MANTLE offers a unique reward station for airdropping different tokens to MNT holders, including one ongoing campaign for 4 million Athena tokens and another for 570,000 Eigen. To learn more, go to mantle.xyz, and thanks to Mantle for supporting us at the Edge Podcast and Edge newsletter.
Okay, Amir, what are the trade-offs to this kind of based future? Or maybe better put, like, what would a naysayer say about base rollups? Funnily enough, I saw a tweet from John Charbonneau today, basically saying, I still don't see compelling reason to build a base rollup on Ethereum beyond alignment. What would you say to that criticism?
In short, lack of understanding. That's probably the first thing that comes out. Like without even like bothering to study what's happening on the base rollups itself. There was an initial criticism. There is one thing that happens when you become based. A rollup would not be able to extract certain sorts of MEV. The income of the sequencer might go lower. But let me ask you this. A lot of rollups already don't even capture that MEV. That was the challenge that was asked. Like, I think Max Resnick in one of the podcasts was like, haha, Justin is wrong. Like, Base just switched to priority fees and they're capturing MEV right now. Sure, good for them. But every rollup realized scaling to become bigger is better than capturing that small MEV. If Base, Arbitrum, they get to stay as small as they are forever right now, the income doesn't matter even if they capture all the MEV. eventually, all the rollups are going to win if we go to multi-trillion-dollar asset on top of the chain. That's where everybody wins. You can forego MEV at that stage. Like, it doesn't matter because you're going to already make millions of dollars. But this was the only downside that a lot of people that had lack of understanding of economy and finance were just saying it. Like, I would also put it as short-sightedness because do you want the Ethereum to stay at this 300 billion or whatever the market cap of DeFi Llama is? Or do you want it to foresee multi-trillion-dollar chain that is activated on that? We can get to multi-trillion dollars when everything can talk to each other.
Amir, another question I had top of mind is, will there be a one winner take all among based rollups? Like there's a term you're using there. You say other rollups can become based, but then we talk about Puffer UniFi as the based rollup. And then I feel like we've talked previously about Puffer UniFi being a window into the world of all these different apps on different networks like Ethereum mainnet and Arbitrum and Optimism. So can you try to dumb that down further for us? There's this based rollup that is Puffer UniFi. My understanding was that that's the thing that I'm going to be connecting to if your vision plays out, and then I'm accessing apps protocols on different L2s through that. But then there's this opportunity for them to also become based. So if you can try to clarify some of this for me.
Yeah. At Puffer, our job is to introduce this technology. Really, nobody had a feeling for it yet. Nobody has been able to touch it yet. Our roadmap is to introduce this base rollup to developers and users. Make them sort of have the feeling of how it really feels to interact with these base rollups. Then slowly they will start to realize I can even spin up my own rollup for my application. I might not even need to be on a rollup that has 10 other apps on it. The most efficient way of having a rollup is having an application-specific rollup because you don't need to process other things. It becomes cheaper to run it. That's the ultimate roadmaps that we'd like to go to. But we need to get there in steps. We can't just come out and say, we have to do this. Also, we have to admit, the Ethereum is not ready for that in terms of the UX and the code base. There has to be a little bit of upgrades that runs through Ethereum so we can get to the final dream of app chains. That's where I'm talking about Venmo just running on its own infrastructure and nobody knows because it has its own infrastructure. It doesn't share infra with Stripe, for example. That's the ultimate goal that we want to go for. But this is the beginning of the roadmap. You will most likely have the same experience as you have with the other rollups, except perhaps it's going to be faster for you. And you can take your assets off of this rollup very quickly. You can come back to Ethereum L1 and you'll be like, wow, I didn't have to wait for 7 days. I can go and maybe take my LP tokens to other places or do other things with my assets so quickly. That's initially what you're going to see. Fast and cheap. Over time, other rollups are going to become based. Ethereum is going to deliver this thing called native rollups or the nativeness. Another thing that excites me is Ethereum itself is going to deliver upgrades to make running these base rollups easier, which is called native rollups. And that excites me the most because you see the commitment of EF into improving this ecosystem even further themselves. Once we see that, probably by the end of this year, we will be able to really see the full force of this vision coming out and create the groundwork for the future of finance.
Amir, just a couple other, while we're talking about these upgrades, I know there's an upgrade called the Pectra upgrade coming, I believe sometime in March. Correct me if I'm wrong. And we've had the current amount of blobs are already getting, they call it saturated, but let's just say throughput on the L1 is pretty much maxed out. So what else can you tell us just about what's happening, just maybe high level L1 scaling and this Pectra upgrade? And then I think I saw recently there was a majority signaling to increase gas limits as well. I think all of this kind of rolls into one, but can you give us any highlights on what's happening here?
Amir, maybe if you can use Base as like part of this example to explain it, like as a user on Base, for example, we're used to transacting for like less than a penny, and, transactions feel like near instant or, within like a second or so. And I've heard, rumblings here about blob space and gas limits. So as you sort of break this down, like I'm trying to think of it from like a user standpoint. I'm using this, I like it. What am I at risk of if like we don't have these upgrades go through?
So maybe like I'll start by that point that you mentioned. If you're, for example, using a rollup like Base, Arbitrum, OP Mainnet, or other rollups, you already had the luxury of the blobs. That was an upgrade that the EF did to provide cheaper transactions for the rollups. But at some point, the data that the chain can provide can be limited due to its limited capacity, due to its number of validators that it has, due to the load that each validator carries. And that's why that data was limited. So once the traffic picks back up, maybe the gas fee will start increasing a little bit more because people are using more and more rollups. The idea is we need to scale to a level that meets the demand of almost keeping the transactions for free or cheap still on Base itself. That's why there are efforts being done on upcoming upgrades to make that happen. Now, you can imagine like some of the upgrades that are going through that users are going to feel very soon is maximum effective balance of each validator on Ethereum. It's going to increase to 2048 from 32 ETH. It means you can consolidate many validators into one. This consolidation means less computers need to talk and communicate to each other. Less computers that talk to each other, it means faster chain. It doesn't mean the security of the chain is lower. It means it's faster. It means we can then push the gas limit higher. It means that then more interesting applications can be built. More interesting applications, better user experience. Users can get onboarded easier and faster. And we can keep all of these use cases cheap. Another upgrade you'll see is, I think one of the big hurdles that a lot of protocols had was this approve and spend. Even though it's good to avoid sort of like phishing or unapproving later, it's annoying. Like I don't want to go in and approve and spend, right? That's where account abstractions are becoming part of Ethereum in EIP 7702. Now you don't have to do it. Now applications are able to build things that you can do your transactions in one go. No more approve spend. This is going to be a big upgrade for everybody. And we're even we even demoed it on Puffer as well. Another cool thing this upgrade brings is as a protocol, you can basically pay for the gas fees of your users. You can sponsor gas transactions. That's something that Base does right now, even though like they did their own upgrades, but every other chain can now do it. Even Ethereum applications can do it. You launch a cool application, you don't want your users to go through the user experience of having to pay for gas, or maybe they don't realize what even gas is. Just pay it for them. You can make it part of the economy of your chain to pay for the gas fees for the users. These are in my opinion, two major upgrades that are coming out in Pectra. Of course, there's like fancier underneath things that I wouldn't get to because it probably like confuses users. But these two main upgrades gonna keep your chains cheap, gonna increase the capacity of the blockchain so you can have your transactions cheap, and also it's gonna make your life easier because it has like EIP 7702 in it, so you can finally do one shot, like kind of one go transaction.
Egg, a quite astonishing commodity, the cause of your desire. Egg, which fills the inner void. Egg.
Eggs are pretty epic, but you know what's more epic? Paying for them with crypto. Borrow, earn, and now pay with MOONWELL.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about our sponsor, GEARBOX, the protocol that reimagines on-chain lending. With GEARBOX, you can access 10x credit across DeFi or lend for passive yields with single asset deposits and no impermanent loss. Users can access leverage to margin trade, stake, farm, and more. To learn more about GEARBOX, go to gearbox.fi. Well, guys, why don't we shift the last few minutes to talking about some of the DeFi opportunities within Puffer. So actually, the first one I want to talk about is just the vePUFFER governance. So what is it? How does it work? Like, what is vePUFFER used for? There's something here about directing incentives, but I'm going to let you tell the whole story.
I think one thing that a lot of people were tired of was the centralized points. These points programs and points farmings are so tiring, like, because of many things. First of all, you have no idea of like how many of these points you're going to get in the end. Is your investment into this protocol really meaningful now? Your time, your energy, maybe your assets? Another thing is it's diluting you. It's basically the more points that centralized point system is printing, the more users come in, your future return is going to be diluted. And we gave it a lot of thought. Puffer Season 1 has like one of the drawbacks because it had centralized point systems. For early protocols that cannot like use their own tokens to incentivize users' activities, that's why it's hard to not use anything else by the point system. So we gave it a little bit of thought and we thought, why don't we bring all of these on chain? If we have promised an X amount of our tokens as airdrop to users, why don't we have a representation of that as tokens? We are in an on-chain world. We should bring everything on-chain. And that's where we followed the meme of Season 1, which it was Crunchy Carrot campaign, and we brought the carrots on-chain. We have a market cap on carrots. The carrots cannot be printed. That's the very important part about it. Users can understand their APRs on the carrots, their returns, because carrots represents a big chunk of the tokens that we give for Season 2. So right now we have 100 million carrots presenting 55 million puffers, for example. By the end of the Season 2, carrots can be all burnt for Puffer. And the exciting thing for it is carrots, users can transfer the carrots. And they're tradables right now. Like if you're tired of you think that you need to get out of this, you can go trade your carrots for someone who is willing to wait longer and get on this. So we created a much better UX for the users to anticipate what is it to come to them in terms of incentives. And we believe that every other protocol should do this too, to avoid the frustrations of this whole like point farming.
So these carrots are tradable points, basically. Like they're points that have an actual value that you can basically trade for, another token and exit it. Whereas like there are folks here that would want to hold on to those carrots through all of Season 2 and then they'll redeem those for actual Puffer tokens. Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's exactly how you just go to puffer.fi. You find like a lot of useful information about Puffer there, but you can just jump right in to our app, which you see the stake page. You can of course like see what is coming, what you can do with staking at Puffer. You can check out our vaults that are basically like more strategies that you can use your assets here to earn extra APY. The exciting part about carrots is now you can see like how much carrot each epoch, each 2 weeks gets allocated to you. And of course you can see your portfolio page once you connect your wallet address. But how can you direct the incentives to your favorite protocol? Let's say you would like UniFi ETH holders to earn some extra yield, and that's your protocol. As a Puffer holder, you go to vote.puffer.fi, you navigate to stake to actually stake your Puffer. There are ways to get Puffer, of course. You can stake your Puffer, and once after 3 days, you get a voting power. You will navigate to gauges, and in the gauges menu, you can vote on your favorite campaign. These campaigns can then provide certain incentives for certain activities back on the app page.
One of these that really stands out is just holding Puffer. So for folks who already do hold Puffer, can you remind us, like, are they, earning anything to hold that puffer. There's the actual vePUFFER mechanism that's important for directing incentives, but is there an actual yield there for holding puffer?
Yeah, currently the ePuffer holders are part of a campaign. So if you go and stake your puffer at vote.puffer.fi, you'll get a bunch of the carrots. But what we're building into this new innovative system is quite sort of an incentive from the other protocols as well. So if your favorite protocol is now using PYTH and you would like them to get more traction, they will be voted in as a campaign. Those protocols can also incentivize you to provide them with PYTH liquidity as well.
Amir, we're getting near the end here, but just kind of wanted to hit you up with, what makes you bullish on the future right now?
One thing is many Ethereum builders are just building and shipping faster than ever. That just makes me very bullish. If you look at Puffer as well, we've just been shipping. We just shipped new incentive campaigns. We've been shipping. Our base rollup testnet is actually out, is in its alpha phase. Our pre-con is going to be out on mainnet very soon. So these are the items that I'm very bullish on. Despite the noise that is going around on CT or other places, I think Ethereum builders have been shipping faster than ever, and that's going to change everything. The amount that is going to be built on Ethereum is going to define the future, and I'm quite bullish about it. Within the next 6 to 12 months, I think I made it a very bullish tweet early in January that probably base rollups are going to change everything, and that is going to happen because teams are building faster than ever. Us at Puffer are just putting so much resources and effort into this to make it one of the best things ever. What I would like to say though, as someone who I have seen 2 cycles now, I know you guys, you might have seen 6, 7 cycles. I don't know at this point, you lost counts. We saw so many cycles probably in one day. But the protocols that have been able to ship and maintain shipping and upgrading their protocols have been able to maintain in this market. And Ethereum is the only one. If you look back, there were many protocols with many promises that came and left. Ethereum was the only one that upgraded to the toughest of times. And I believe that's why it's keeping us here and keeping us bullish on the future of the period.
Well, guys, I think this is a great place for us to wrap up. So I want to remind listeners that they can learn more about Puffer by going to puffer.fi. They should go to unifi.puffer.fi to learn about UniFi, the base rollup. They should follow Puffer_finance on X or Twitter, follow Puffer_UniFi, and follow Amir's account at Amir ONCHAIN. And then we'll put that all into the show notes for folks. Otherwise, Amir, thanks for coming back on. Great to see you. Lots of exciting updates. I do sense that there's a big turnaround here coming for Ethereum. I think that Puffer's a huge part of that. And based rollups are definitely going to answer the call for a lot of the improvements to the Ethereum UX, plus this major network upgrade that we talked for a few minutes about as well. But any final word for us? And like I said, just thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me on this podcast. Looking forward to coming back.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you're a talented founder or developer, please consider reaching out to our team at fourthrevolution.capital. And to stay up to date with future episodes, plus get expert tips, strategies, and exclusive content, subscribe to our free newsletter at the-edge.xyz.